What you think you know about willpower is actually limiting your potential. I asked people on my Instagram and Twitter, as well as a few of my coaching clients, what they thought about willpower, and the majority of them said that they believed that willpower was a limited resource that depletes throughout the day. And that seems to be what most people believe. And let me tell you that you are limiting your potential just by believing that. So, what I want to talk about is how we perceive willpower makes all the difference. And it's often because we think of willpower as having absolute control over our impulses and actions that leads us to believe that it is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day. This is like the thinking that gets us to wake up at 4 a.m. to do hard workouts and cold plunges and keep on driving through the full day relentlessly. And we've come to this conclusion about willpower because some of the original studies looked at the correlation between willpower and HRV, or heart rate variability, which is an indicator of our stress levels or our level of recovery and preparedness. And as we used tasks that required a lot of willpower, we saw depletions in stamina and more fatigue. And follow-up studies found that when we have too many choices, like at a buffet, it reduces the amount of willpower that we have to resist temptations. And so if we accept that willpower can run out, it's not our fault when we do run out and feel depleted at the end of the day. We blame it on willpower and our perception around it, which ultimately means there's not much hope when we're grinding through long days. So here's something to think about. Willpower is actually a set of skills. Things like delayed gratification, noticing and overriding unwanted thoughts, using our rational brain instead of acting on emotions, and conscious self-regulation. So by looking at willpower in this way, we can see that it's a set of resilience skills. And with resilience comes the opportunity for growth. So more recent research on willpower questioned those original assumptions that it could be depleted and reframed it with the study participants by suggesting that willpower was something that could build up like a muscle in the gym. And so when these study participants were told that doing a mentally challenging task could energize them, they actually performed better on the subsequent challenges that they were given. Whereas the comparison group that was told that their willpower would be depleted performed as expected and did run out of energy. So it turns out it totally depends on what you believe. Willpower is only a limited resource if that's how you perceive it. So the more that you exert willpower, the stronger that it becomes, just like training in the gym to build muscle and get stronger. So the important thing here to recognize is when you start to shift your belief around willpower in this way, you're not going to give up due to the excuse of not having enough willpower when things seem really hard, and it's going to allow you to push forward and build further resilience. Now, this is really great to know when it comes to willpower, but I think there's a couple of things to take from this research and the understanding behind willpower that can help us make better decisions around those goals that we want to achieve that we are either depending on willpower for or making the excuse around willpower and why it's depleting. So the first helpful thing is I do think that most people are limiting their beliefs around willpower and creating a self-fulfilling prophecy based on what they're telling themselves around willpower as a limited resource. So it's helpful to reframe this for yourself. I personally like to do written affirmations, but use whatever style of reframing works for you. It could be an affirmation in the mirror or a verbal affirmation of some other sort, or talking it out with somebody else that you trust. So I like to use the present tense for these written statements, something like I have unlimited willpower, rather than future tense like I will have unlimited willpower, just because it's that much more powerful to reframe your beliefs around who you are at the present moment in order to start to act upon that belief that you can build your resilience and build your willpower through effort. And it might seem like a subtle difference to use present tense instead of future tense, but our brain will perceive this. So it's important to do this if you're writing down, or even if you're speaking verbally to yourself, these affirmations. And the second point that I think is important here is that maybe for most of us, it's not the willpower that is actually limiting our ability to reach our goals. I think that for a lot of us, it's our ability to manage stress and feeling too overwhelmed that is leading to struggling with those goals or just not making the amount of progress that we would like to be making. When we're feeling depleted and our mental stress is too high, we need recovery and rest regardless of what our willpower looks like. So take note of what your stress levels look like in the different areas of your health, and then make an informed decision based off of that. If you're trying to accomplish one of those high value goals at the end of the day, after all your work is done, maybe look at how you can restructure your day so that you can get it done earlier before work starts, or save the majority of it for those days where you're not working as hard. And certainly work on your willpower and use this information to build it like a muscle. Think about those willpower skills like delayed gratification and using your rational brain rather than your emotional brain when things get heated, and slowly make progress on those over time as you reinforce them. So I hope you found this helpful and make use of what we talked about. And until the next video, find your flow.